Love, it has been good to me this time around. Things were they were bound to change when it was found. Sugar never tasted sweeter on my lips. My heart is now intact and I can find
Well, hello, good evening, and welcome to this evening's episode of the X-RAD show, the talk show that gets you talking on the Xandermonium Network, live from New York City, also known as the Xan and show on Wednesdays. I'm Xander Gibb.
And I'm Andrea Kaye.
Oh, yes, sir. On today's show, the very hottest of topics, and in part two, the conservarican Julio Rivera from Reactionary Times joins us. More to come in a mere moment. So you can call us via Facebook. We'll let you know when that time occurs. And you can tweet us. The tweet deeds are on the Xrad Facebook show page for today. Feel free to comment in the feed around the live video. We will endeavor to include you in the conversation. Welcome back to the show, Andrea. How is the world with you?
Oh, well, I hate to complain, okay, because I realize that I live in one of the most beautiful cities in America, but dadgummit, we had like 80 at the coast like 2 days ago, and now I'm sitting here back in leg warmers and sweats because it's 68 degrees.
You're cold and it's 60. I would give anything for 68 degrees, but no, it's been quite warm here today too. But I have to say, I love you and I love my West Coast friends, but I have to say, you're all a little freaking spoiled when it comes to the weather. Because 68 is a heat wave for New Yorkers, let me tell you.
I know that I'm spoiled because, and when it's whether it's 68 degrees or 80 degrees here, we rarely have the miserable humidity I'll have on the East Coast or my people in the South have in the one. So like I said, I hate to complain. But, it could be just a tad warmer here. But anyway, it is beautiful here in San Diego. And, it's always the highlight of my weekend to be with you on Wednesdays.
Absolutely ditto. And right back at you. Now, I really am. I'm hoping to come to San Diego in the summer to see friends because I hear it's like, they talk about it as being God's backyard. Would you agree with that?
It is stunning. It is beautiful here. Of course, well, that is if you think the beaches are beautiful. And beaches aren't necessarily everybody's bag, baby. Not everybody likes a beach. There's people that like mountains or lakes. But if you like beaches, they're pretty spectacular. Here they are. So, but if I find out you came to San Diego and you didn't look me up, I would hunt you down like a dog. Are
you kidding me? I'd be knocking on your door, You better be. If I knew where you lived, of course. But yeah, I'm totally a beach person. But what I hate the most about the beach is I'm not one of these people that because I'm a big guy. I'm not one of these speedo freaks. And what's this thing that this new romp him thing, that people are wearing. I mean, I wouldn't wear one of those to the beach either. But the thing I hate the most about going to the beach is these animal rights people trying to drag me back into the ocean. It's a little bit of a worry. But I've always grown up kind of near the sea and near the coast. And when I lived in England, my family worked in the fishing industry. And so I was always, and I learned to drive a boat really, really young and things like that and absolutely loved it. So I really feel the ocean and it really kind of like feels like home to me. So, I'll probably end up in some beach shack somewhere, drinking something, alcoholic and doing my radio show from a beach shack probably.
Well, know what? That sounds like a fantastic plan. In fact, I would love. It's gotten to where it's so expensive in San Diego, nobody can really afford to buy a house here or live here, or let alone retire here. So, I wouldn't mind me doing the Andrea Kaye show and doing some Zan and Ann while sipping a rum punch somewhere in the Caribbean.
Wouldn't that be great? I would just be brilliant, and the beauty is, if your show is kind of portable enough, you can kind of do it from anywhere. Because I'm hoping to go see my family in England this year, and people are like, oh, what are you going to do about your show? Well, they have Facebook in the UK, so I can do it from there too. And talking about the UK, that kind of really leads us well into our first topic today, because I'm sure everybody, unless you live under a rock, has been aware of what's been going on in the UK with regards to the radical Islamic terrorist attack. Yes, we can say it on this show because we're not called Obama and we're not liberals, because the brother of the person that took the bomb, who's called coward, asshole, bastard Muslim, the suspect accused of carrying out the deadly attack at a concert in Manchester, England, allegedly said he knew his brother was going to carry out an attack, but did not know where or when, according to a spokesman for Libya's counter-terror forces. The 22-year-old suspect suicide bomber died at the scene, thank God, and an Ariana Grande concert. Now, Libyan authorities have been following the suspect's brother, who was born in 1997, for a month and a half because of suspected links to ISIS. The brother was arrested during the interrogation, revealed that he knew his brother was going to carry out the attack, but didn't know when and where, but didn't alert the authorities. I mean, how stupid does that make you if you don't say, look, I think there's something going on with my brother, and I think he's going to hurt people. So at least 6 people have been arrested as authorities in Manchester investigate a network that may have played a role into the deadly attack. 22 people, including a female police officer who was off duty, were killed in the Monday night explosion. ISIS claimed responsibility for the bombing, and the UK raised the country's threat level to critical, which is the highest that the United Kingdom number 5 threat. Officials said that 119 people who went to hospital after the bombing, 64 of them are being treated, and 20 of those are in critical condition. But Mr. Trump, I appeal to you now, please don't be cruel and restrict the entry to the United States of those potential terrorists from coming into our country, because they're not all bad, and we can hug them into submission. Oh no, we freaking can't, can we, Ann?
Oh my gosh. I mean, that just reminds me of that dopey Katy Perry saying, no borders, no boundaries, let's just all coexist.
Please.
It's just insane. Do you really think that's like saying, you know what, if somebody could have just sat down and, had a cup of tea with Jeffrey Dahmer, maybe they could have talked him out of wanting to, rape and cut up, young men and eat them. I mean, it's insane. This is, that kind of thinking is why we have dead little girls right now in Manchester, and 10 or 12, something like that, missing. And it is preventable. This attack was preventable, and not just by the family member that didn't speak out. This guy was a known wolf, which means they knew who he was. Just like the Pulse nightclub guy here, our authorities knew who he was. And I suspect, while I don't know the intelligence community over there like we know it here, I suspect that the intelligence community and the law enforcement over there has been just as politicized as over here.
Yeah.
And hamstrung and told that they're not allowed to, because Islam is, quote, a religion, that you can't discriminate against them by, looking at them a certain way or profiling them, and that's a bunch of crap. We're going to continue to have dead bodies of children, babies, and, all the way up to, senior citizens. We're going to continue to have dead people because of political correctness.
I'm sorry. I'm just absolutely stunned because Twitter has just limited some of the features of my account because I had the audacity to make a comment to Chelsea Clinton earlier on with regards to spending money from the Haitian that was intended for the Haitian children on her wedding. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but that has just infuriated me that Twitter has the audacity to limit my account because I dare to.
Did they block it? What did they do?
It says we've temporarily limited some of your account features, but that's the only thing I can think it is. So you're not allowed an opinion on Twitter anymore, unless it's a liberal opinion. And so it's time to start boycotting social media because this is infuriating. How dare these people do this kind of rubbish? I can't believe that. Why can I not have an opinion if it even, very polite about it, but I'm not allowed to have an opinion because I'm a conservative? I'm sorry, I just saw that and went into one. I can't even use my Twitter account now for 12 hours. But I'm sorry, I totally digressed there. I think this is a part of it, though, when this kind of really highlights what we're saying here, is that we're not allowed to talk about things. We can't say it how it is. We can't comment on the fact that there are people out there that identify as Muslim and they want to kill us, and they don't want to be vetted before coming in the country. And if we say anything about it, we're haters and we're bad and we're wrong. And we're not allowed to have an opinion about it. And that totally bothers me.
Well, Twitter and Facebook, they don't take down terrorist sites. Facebook, Zuckerberg has come out and said that he's not even going to take down these murder videos that are on there. The only thing being taken down is conservatives. And regardless of what you think of Milo and his comments about 13-year-olds having sex, he was completely banned from Twitter. And why?
Right.
Because he's a gay man wanting people to vote for Trump. And he was completely banned from Twitter. And there was where was the ACLU speaking up for him? Twitter has been using something called shadow banning for a while against conservatives. I don't know if you're familiar with that. And so, unfortunately, they're private enterprises and conservatives continue to use them. We don't have a whole lot of other options, unfortunately. I think there was something called MeWe or WeMe, and I was never even able to get anything going over there. Have you?
No. There's another thing that started as well that I went on called Gab, and it's crap. What we need somebody out there who's got money, someone who's a Republican, who can start a new social media platform that is geared more towards conservatives. I mean, really, it shouldn't be that it's geared towards anyone, but we should all be able to have freedom of speech on social media.
Well, not just social media, but everywhere in media. This wasn't something that we planned to talk about tonight, but it's no secret that the left has been going after Fox News. Fox has been leaning left, and they've allowed forces from the left. They've used forces from the left as an excuse to take out O'Reilly and others, and they are seriously going after Sean Hannity right now.
Yes.
And over the whole Seth Rich thing. Well, you know what? If there was no there to this Seth Rich thing, why would they care? Why would they care about him wanting to talk about it, wanting to report it? Fox News got him to back off of it last night, but he's been tweeting like crazy that he is not letting up on his quest for truth about that. Fox may not be letting him speak out about it, but he's going to continue on Twitter. But it won't be long, though, before somehow, some way, Fox gets rid of Hannity. And right now, Fox is third in the ratings for the first time in many years. I don't think they care. I think they care more about agenda. Than they even do about money and sponsors and advertisers at this point.
I think it's totally concerning because when you take a step back and actually look at this, from the perspective that they've got Bill O'Reilly gone, and I'm convinced that this was due to Democrats. As soon as he started laughing about Wiggy Waters and saying things about her, he was a racist, and they had him gone. I'm not particularly a fan of Bill O'Reilly, but here's the thing for me. If he did the things he said they did, why did they keep him on so long? And why did they pay money to people? Because what this says to me is anybody now can say, I've been to the Sean Hannity show with friends. I could say, Sean Hannity touched me inappropriately, and that means he can be fired now. And that really bothers me because what that means now is that anybody can accuse anybody of anything without evidence, because there was no evidence with all of that with Bill O'Reilly, and they can lose their jobs. But what does that say about us in 2017 that we don't require evidence regarding these kinds of accusations? Because if someone said it about me, I tell you, I would sue them for slander. You know, I mean, unless it was true, you know, if it was some hot guy that, you know, I put my arm around them and they got really offended because I'm not that type of guy, but I can see how some people can misconstrue friendship, you know, being friendly, but there's no way they should have fired this guy. And the next one in line, unfortunately, is Sean Hannity. And that's a worry for me because they're systematically weeding out our conservative commentators.
Yeah, the thing with O'Reilly is that I will tell you he was guilty of that in the past. There was an audio tape of him sexually harassing an intern. However, the recent accusations weren't, but he was already weakened at the knees when the left decided to take him out, and that's unfortunate. Fox News should have stood by him because so just because somebody did sexually harass somebody means that they can never work again.
Yeah.
And that happened was 15 years ago. All the other recent allegations were piling on. The left have been going after him for many years, and they are actively going after Hannity. And I don't turn on that network anymore. I don't remember the last time I watched the show there,
No.
and I won't. And I get my news elsewhere. And I think that that's one of the things that conservatives need to do, because I predict that Hannity will be gone. He tweeted last night that he had meetings with his attorneys right before he went on air, but I believe that they're going to take him out.
Yeah, and I think that would be a big mistake because people have already, there's a huge thing on social media right now that people are saying, if they take Hannity off, that they will be gone. And I think it's absolutely a fair comment because the thing is that are we just going to bow to the left now and keep quiet? I kind of think it's imperative for some of us out here to keep independent because we're not afraid to say what we feel. We're not afraid to tell the truth. And we're not afraid to talk about the facts that matter. And this is what the left wants. The left wants control. The left wants to tell us what we can and can't talk about. And that's of huge concern. It should be to everybody watching this show and everybody in America. Because while they're eroding our rights away of free speech, they're coming for yours next.
Yeah, well, they've already accomplished quite a bit of going after our free speech. One of the reasons why the polls were so inaccurate going into the election is because people had already been bullied into silence, in a variety of different ways. The being bullied with a PC stick that if you want immigration laws enforced, you hate brown people. The PC stick that if you want a woman to pay for her own contraceptives or her own abortions, or that if you're anti-abortion, you hate women.
Yeah.
And if you're not for full entitlement programs where everybody, gets free chicken in every pot and a free roof over their head, you hate poor people, and on and on and on. And that if you speak out against Islamic terror, that you're, a racist bigot,
right,
and you're not allowed to speak the truth. And that's exactly what's going on right now. We have had 8 years. You look at what's happened after this terrorist attack in Manchester, and, 8, not with President Trump, but for 8 years with the Obama administration, immediately after a terrorist attack, the first thing that he and his administration officials did was to warn us, to defend Islam, warn us against Islamophobia, and enact legislation not to protect us from radical Islam, but to protect Muslims. We even had after protect Muslims against hate crimes, which never materialized. I don't know if people remember that after San Bernardino, Loretta Lynch came out and threatened prosecution of people who spoke out against Islam. And not to mention the fact, a reminder that President Obama went to the UN and said the future does not belong to those who slander the prophet. So the left, it really wants hate speech legislation. And we're lucky we got Trump in because that's really where we were going.
I have this theory, and I said this on the show last night, that things that, like, of the ilk that happened on Monday night in Manchester, what happened in San Bernardino, when these I can't even think of a polite word to say about them, when they drive trucks into markets at Christmas and things like this. I will tell you what's created it. It's this air of political correctness that we've had for the last 25 years, and it's got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm all for being respectful to people, but respect stops at a certain point. You know, where's the respect for my Christianity? Where's the respect for my religion in a Judeo-Christian country? It is not acceptable that over the last 25 years, we've had to bow to Islam. I'm not a Muslim. I won't bow to Islam. And I think that the things that we're seeing now are because of that. And it's come about because we've just been so backed into a corner that we're afraid to call a spade that we've made this happen. Not you and I, but in general. This has been brought about. This air of political correctness has brought about ISIS. That and, of course, the Obama administration.
Well, yeah, you know, anytime the PC stick is used to effect, it enables the enemy and it gives them power over us. You know, there was a reason why a Christian baker was targeted in Portland to and pressured to bake a cake for a gay wedding. If they didn't, they were, you know, subject to a lawsuit. But Muslim bakeries all over the country did the same thing, never faced any prosecution, because that was a targeted attack against, you know, Christians in this country. While we have, just like school teachers can't wear a cross, public schools can't even have Christmas on a calendar anymore. For 14 years, there were lawsuits going on in my neighborhood involving the cross up on Mount Soledad. Meanwhile, because you can't have any reference to God or Christ, or anything related to Judeo-Christian values. Meanwhile, school districts all over the country, including in San Diego, are teaching Islam in schools.
Wow.
There is an and the left is doing it, in my opinion, because they're partnering with the Islamists, because Sharia is compatible with Marxism, because it's about a centralized government with control and power over the citizens. And Americans need to stop being fearful of being called a bigot. What's the worst thing that can happen to you for being called a bigot?
I don't know. People think you're a bigot. But aren't you past caring what people think of you? If I cared about what people thought of me, I wouldn't do a show every day. I wouldn't bare my heart and soul and share how much I love this country and how I don't want people destroying it and destroying our way of life. I wouldn't even fight against my own community. And I do that every single day because this is about what is right and wrong, not about what people think of you. And I think it's just become more about what people, for some people, it's become more about what people think of you and what your image is like than actually what's going on in the world. Because, you know, the first thing that President Trump should do when he's back on American soil is ban all immigration and all entrants from countries that are kind of encouraging this kind of thing. Just like he tried to do before. Everyone that comes into the country should be fully vetted. And if you're not prepared to be fully vetted and go through the process, let's face it, our ancestors had to go through Ellis Island in order to be able to become American citizens and to come into the country. So if you know, why should you even have rights if you're not a citizen? If you don't like it, don't come to the country. But you will not kill our people anymore. We have to get tough now, because if we don't get tough, we're going to all be dead or our throats slit.
Well, yeah. A couple things there. In terms of actions that we need to take, you know, the left, anytime there's a shooting, is can we have a conversation about common sense gun control? Well, you know what? 8-year-olds were murdered and slaughtered in a preventable attack because he was known to the British authorities, and they did nothing to protect little girls. We know that we can prevent terrorist attacks by stopping people from coming here from these countries. Yeah. We know that. We know ISIS is infiltrating the refugees. On top of that, there's things that we can do here. I know it may sound far-fetched or too idealistic, but Rick Santorum mentioned it himself. He said we can declare Islam a political ideology, which it is. It is a political system that hides behind a minor religious component. And if we did that, then we could go a really long way in terms of fighting this, because they're hiding in mosques and hiding behind religion. And on top of it, getting back to your other point, we're past the point now to where the PC stick of being called racist and the fear of just being called that is in play. Now, like I was talking about with Loretta Lynch threatening prosecution, for hate speech against Muslims in Idaho when the 5-year-old girl was raped by a gang of refugees. Her family and others were threatened with prosecution for speaking out. We've got workplace legislation where people can be prosecuted if they fire somebody, or Disney faced prosecution because they told a girl that, she couldn't wear what she wanted, the hijab or whatever, because it didn't jive with her costume. We're actually at a point where there's legislation and lawsuits and penalties that people are going to be suffering now for taking a position, and that's really scary.
Yeah, I think that we need to sit down and have a conversation nationally about how we're going to approach this, because every time an incident happens, people get a little pissed for 5 minutes and nothing changes. But it's imperative that we, it's a state of emergency right now with regards to, Islamic Jihad. If they can go to a concert and kill our kids, what the hell is next? We need to get tough. And, I was criticized on Friday night on Joe Messina's show. I said the best way to deal with these terrorists is not to give them the same rights as American citizens. If they've just committed an act of terror, you shoot them in the head where they are and put their bodies in a pit for all of the families that they've hurt to urinate on until it smells too bad, and then you've got to just, throw it away. Because the thing is, for me, we're too lenient on these people. Look at the Tsarnaev brothers. Look at what they, why not send them on holiday, for frick's sake? It's disgusting. American citizens don't even get treated this well.
Well, not only that, but I'm glad you brought up the Tsarnaev brothers, because while we have an intelligence community, we're finding out now that classified documents are coming out that President Obama's been spying on citizens now for years. While all this spying of citizens has been going on, and the spying of Trump and his campaign and all of that, that's what the intelligence community has been focused on, instead of focusing on keeping us safe from terrorists. We've got an intelligence community that has failed us. Comey should have been fired because of what happened with the Tsarnaev brothers, who were allowed to do just like this killer in Manchester, allowed to go to terrorist training camps and come back here. The Tsarnaev brothers were brought here as refugees, supported financially by American citizens who they maimed and killed with pressure cooker bombs, and the FBI could have prevented. The Russians, what's all this yammering about Russians? The Russians told the FBI about the Tsarnaev brothers, and they were on a Russian terror watch list, and our FBI did nothing.
Well, the guy who perpetrated that heinous act in Manchester, they were aware of him. He was on a watch list. The Libyans had told the Libyan intelligence agency had told them about him, but absolutely nothing. And I'll tell you why. It's because they're afraid of offending people. Oh, we can't possibly suggest that you're a terrorist. Well, let me tell you this. I would far rather be accused of being a terrorist every day if that kept people safe. It's like these people that go to the airport and say, I don't want to go through customs. Well, don't go to the airport. The thing is, if we want to be safe, then we have to be open to scrutiny. Whoever we are, you, me, Andrea, whatever. If it keeps people safe, we have to be open to scrutiny. But I'm sick of them messing with our lives, Andrea, because that could have been Madison Square Garden that happened at. We have to toughen up. We have to have a better response to these things, because I don't think it's working. It's not working at all.
It's not, because we've got an intelligence community that, like every other agency, has been completely politicized, infiltrated by the Muslim Brotherhood, which another thing should be declared as a terrorist organization. Saudi Arabia did. We've got, John Brennan, who went before Congress yesterday, is the same acting CIA director who went to the Islamic Society of North America's conference last summer, who was an unindicted co-conspirator in the Holy Land Foundation trial, and he went to them and said, this was according to when I was at the Act for America Brigitte Gabriel conference in September. Multiple Congress people reported this. He went to them and he said, I am not here looking at you through the lens of the head of an intelligence agency and an investigative body. I am here as a friend. Let that sink in. The head of our CIA, who's talking about surveilling Trump, wasn't bothering to surveil an unindicted co-conspirator in terror while surveilling Trump. This is why we have terrorists like in San Bernardino and the fiance who came here on a fiance visa after she was studying at a radical extremist madrasa school that has branches here in the United States. That's being allowed because we've got an intelligence community that's been completely politicized. On top of it, do you remember Philip Haney? He was the DHS whistleblower who was pulled off an investigation involving mosques where the San Bernardino killer went, and 67 of his reports were deleted. And he says that he could have probably stopped that terror attack if he had been allowed to continue his investigation.
Right, right. But you know what really I thought was really interesting about the Miami nightclub bombing? I was just really surprised that the liberals didn't get on that so much more because, you know, they killed the gays. You know, the liberals are so pro-gay. I'm not anti-gay before you start saying it because I'm gay myself. But, you know, I thought they would have been all over that, you know, killing their precious homosexuals. But no. You know, let's give them a big hug. It's because we don't love them enough. It's because we don't show them enough. You know, open the gates and let them all in and give them all of our money and let them have things that Americans have to work twice as hard for. And it's a concern. It's a huge concern because, you know, ultimately, I mean, I want to stop having this conversation. I really do. Because I want to live in I feel safe and my president can actually institute measures that protect me as an American and you as an American without these bullshit, excuse my French, liberal ideologies that are going to get us all killed.
Yeah, you know, my theory is about the Pulse nightclub that, you know, the left is supposedly cares about the LBGT. Why didn't that should have woken them up? And it's because they didn't really care about the LBGT community any more than they care about women. If they cared about the LGBTQ...
Facebook have interrupted the broadcast. We're back. We're back, folks. Facebook interrupted the broadcast. I'm guessing it was because of content. There you go. Thank you for proving me right, Facebook, that you are a Nazi regime and you are a fascist state. I just don't know what else to say. You know, we had 25, 30 people watching, and so they freeze you out, and then everybody is gone. Then this is what they do. You see, this is why we need better social media that allows for conservative commentary. Because I don't care if what I said was offensive. It wasn't illegal or bad or wrong, you know?
No, it was just conservative.
Oh, gosh, what a fiery show. So for those of you that are still with us, I'm apologizing for the interruption in broadcasting. It is down to the fact that Facebook are liberal snowflakes, and they do not like the fact that conservative broadcasters say exactly how it is. People like myself and Andrea and Joe Messina. I want to change tack because I need to calm down and, you know, really take a blood pressure medication. And I want to talk about the Donald and the Pope, because President Trump and his wife Melania continued their excursion across the Middle East and Europe with a stop at the Vatican today, where they met Pope Francis. After Mr. Trump and Francis sat for photos, the Pope revealed his initial impression of Mr. Trump when he met Melania. Now, as they were shaking hands, Francis had a question for the First Lady, said, "What is your husband's diet? What do you give him to eat?" Potica, the Pope joked through a translator, which I thought was a really odd question. Melania, nodding her head, repeated Potica as the two laughed. Now, there was some initial confusion about the remark, as reporters traveling with the first family originally thought the two were discussing pizza rather than Potica, which is pastry originating in Melania's native Slovenia. Now, the media and libs speculated on whether the Pope and Donald hated each other, but surely as the Pope is a man of God, he's supposed to love everybody, right, And?
Well, yes, he is supposed to love everybody. However, I don't think that Marxism and communism is a very loving system of government, and that's what the Pope, propagates as he's going around the world. And it's also the same Pope who invited Muslim prayer into the Vatican, I think, for the first time ever. And, you know, that is, to me, is blasphemous. I'm glad that Trump is gone. He's the first sitting president to go and meet with leaders of three different religions. I'm glad that he did this. Unfortunately, he did not get to go with the support of the nation revealed nothing. But, other than that, okay. All right, Pope. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have time for all this pomposity. I have to make it clear, I don't have an issue with Catholics. Some of my best friends happen to be Catholics. It's Catholicism I have an issue with, where you've got a man in a dress telling everybody else what to do. I've seen that before, and it's usually in a drag club, to be honest. But I don't like this guy, and I think I thought, first of all, he was going to be very radical. He was going to be very good for relations, but it was unfortunate that he wasn't. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, he's not. And, I have family all over the state of Louisiana, which is the only state divided by Catholic parish instead of counties. The only thing that ever bothers me is the assumption that the Pope is the head of Christianity.
No.
As Christians, you can be Catholic and be a Christian, but not all Catholics are Christians. And I'm struggling to explain this in the right way. Catholicism is not necessarily Christianity.
Right.
And it's not necessarily not. I don't know if I'm explaining that well.
Yeah, I totally get you. And for me, the thing is that, as someone who has, went to theological college, for me, the head of the church is Jesus, Jesus and God are the head of the church, not a man. And you might want to describe him as, God's representative on earth, but you could say that I was God's representative on earth. I can't abide the pomposity of Catholicism. And apologies to any Catholics out there, because I'm not trying to be offensive to you. It's the whole BS of it,
Well, yeah, it's, for me, I believe Christianity to me is based on the simple concept, the plan of salvation, that if you believe in Jesus Christ as your Savior, you go to heaven, John 3:16.
Yeah.
If Catholics believe in that, then we share a similar belief system. We share the same Christian plan of salvation belief system. The rest that's involved with Catholicism, if somebody, I don't care, that is not my Christianity.
No, mine either.
And I don't believe in any of the other Christian Catholic stuff that's involved in Catholicism. So that's where I always kind of get a little bothered when, for example, with Trump's trip, to where it's presented as though he's meeting with the top three of the world's religions, as though Christians are lumped in with Catholicism, and they're not necessarily the same thing.
No, absolutely not. And I don't recognize this guy's authority. And I think, it's kind of funny how, he sits inside the walls of the Vatican, counting the silver and the gold, and there are people starving, and that kind of bothers me. That kind of hypocrisy bothers me. When I lived in England, I was involved in ecumenism, and that's kind of like all the churches working together, all the Christian churches, I hasten to add. And one of my friends was a Catholic priest, and he said to me, I won't name him, but he basically said, the Pope is a joke. We get out there, we feed the poor, we help people, but we still have to send the biggest portion of the money that we raise, through tithes and whatever else, to the Catholic Church, when we should be redistributing that in the community to help the poor. And that was perfect for me. That really kind of like hit the nail on the head. Chet from Freedom on Tech says the Pope eats after birth. I'm sure that's just an allegation, unless you have pictures on there to share. Chet.
Speaking of hypocrisy, he's also the Pope that sits behind, the walled city, trying to dictate politics and tell America and badmouth Trump during the campaign that we don't have the right to have laws. Like I said, I've got a lot of family and friends who are Catholics, some of which share my same Christian belief in terms of the plan of salvation. Some don't. Whatever they choose to believe with Catholicism is fine, but he is not my leader.
No.
I don't take orders from him, and this country shouldn't take their orders from him, and he needs to do whatever the heck his job is. He needs to do it and stay out of our business.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm not even really sure sure why Trump met with him, to be honest with you.
No, I think it was probably just to be polite visit. But fancy, it's kind of like, it's like going to someone's house. And, obviously, Mr. Trump is an older gentleman. He's not like, buff and fit. And I don't mean that disrespectfully because, I'm not either unless you haven't noticed. But that would be like me and my partner, if I had one, going to visit someone and them saying to my partner, so what do you give him pastries all the time, I mean, how rude is that? To the president of the United States, because I know if I had a boyfriend and someone asked them that, they'd be saying, no, I don't give him pastries all the time. But would you like a slap to go with your rudeness? Because why would you say that to someone? I mean, and I don't know if the language stuff was a barrier, but it was still rude in my book.
Well, it was rude, and and I think he gets away with it because he is the Pope, and he is treated like he's God when he's not. And that's why I like to make it clear that as a Christian, I don't consider him the head of the church. I don't have any church. I have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, and that's my belief system. And so, and that was one of the things that always bothered me about O'Reilly, by the way, was that he always tried to put forth as though, the Pope is the head of the Christian church. I think he's a rude, arrogant, former Nazi communist jackwagon who does the pedophilia that's going on in the church yet.
Absolutely. Yeah, get your own house in order before you try and tell us how to deal with ours. Now our guest is on the line now. Having so many problems with Facebook tonight, I have to apologize. Our guest is Julio Rivera, who is the editor-in-chief at Reactionary Times. He's a writer and contributor with Newsmax, and he's our pal. Welcome back to the show, Julio Rivera.
Hey, what's going on, Xander? I'm actually coming to you from the mean streets of New York today. So I'm actually right in the smack dab in the middle of, liberal hell.
Oh, gosh.
I don't know that out loud.
Yeah, careful, because even the dogs carry guns, apparently, on the streets of New York. But that's a story for a different day. Now, you're live with myself and the fabulously beautiful Andrea Kaye.
Yes, hello, Andrea. How are you? I love talking to you guys. I feel like it doesn't. I don't have a complete week unless I talk to both of you guys.
Absolutely.
Awesome, Julio. Hey, we're East Coast, West Coast. We both know what it's like to be among the liberals and have to bump up against the crazy people. You got to get out here to the West Coast sometime with Dan.
I am. I'm going to be at Politicon this year, which is at the end of July. So I will be in Pasadena, California, at the end of July. So there's that.
Oh, awesome.
There you go. I just was gonna say, why did you not bring me a slice if you're down in the city, Julio? Because that's the one thing I miss about not being kind of like down in the city all the time. Is being able to pick up a slice of pizza on the corner for $2, and the smell just as you go by. Because before I moved back to New York, I was only like 110 pounds allegedly. So let's jump right into some stories. It's been a very interesting week this week. We were just talking about the fact that Mr. Trump had been abroad this week, and we were just talking about the fact that now I probably shouldn't presume this, but I presume that you're a Catholic, Julio. Maybe I'm wrong, but we were just talking about the fact that the Pope met with Donald and Melania Trump this week, and today, and he even said he had the audacity to say to Melania Trump, "Are you feeding him pastries?" Which we thought was kind of a bit rude to say the least. What do you make of this? And is he the head of the church in your book?
Well, listen, I'm not Catholic. I'm actually non-denominational Christian. I've actually bounced around to a couple of different churches. Right now I go to a Baptist church regularly. I believe in a personal relationship with God. I don't believe that God has a so-called representative on earth. I actually don't really believe in that, and I'm not really one for pomp and circumstance when it comes to faith. At this point, there have been some very good popes that have been, John Paul II was fantastic. Ones that really had a message of peace and unity and things like that. I think that with this Pope being, and I don't know if it's because he's from South America or what the case is, but it seems to guess, things that aren't traditional pillars of the church. He seems very pro-socialist. Things that, like, I don't believe that Jesus was a socialist. I mean, I really don't. I believe in, free will and, what the founders intended for our country. And, and I think he's a little bit of a hypocrite. I mean, calling out, Donald Trump on the wall when they have a wall again, out on surrounding Vatican City.
Do you want to...
you look at certain things like that, and I just see the hypocrisy, and I don't really approve of it.
Do you want to take that one, Andrea?
I was sitting here thinking I was already big mouth, already talking about the Pope earlier, and I certainly don't want to offend people, but yeah, there's just too much hypocrisy going on with that. I don't really know enough in terms of Julio's comments about past popes. Since I don't follow any pope, I don't really know how this one pairs up to other ones. I just don't remember in my time hearing about a pope bad-mouthing America and trying to tell us what we should do with our politics and literally outright publicly pushing for communism.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Communism is kind of the elimination of the church. In order for it to be successful, there's a certain element of the marginalization of religion. So I think, a pope to be for that, to me, kind of makes him a little bit of a false messenger of God, Come on.
Yeah.
A false messenger of God. We're crossing the street here in the city. I'm sorry.
It's absolutely fine. So I want to just change the direction a little bit. I want to ask you about, I'm sure you've heard that ex-FBI director and huge a-hole James Comey will be speaking to the special counsel overseeing the probing to Russian meddling into the alleged Russian meddling, I should say, into the 2016 election before testifying publicly on the events that led to him being fired. Now, Jason Chaffetz revealed this week that basically Comey wants to speak with special counsel Robert Mueller before he actually gives a statement. Now, isn't this really kind of out of order, and isn't this the fact that he's trying to get coaching from Mueller?
Yeah, I mean, this is how I look at it, right? I think Comey's being very vindictive right now. If there was, in fact, any sort of, attempt to try to coerce him by the president to go ahead and close an investigation, why didn't he act on it? Why didn't he act on Hillary Clinton? And all the information that's common knowledge. Why did he act on anything? I mean, this guy was as incompetent as you could possibly be, and he justifiably was fired. So I don't see anything other than really sour grapes when it comes to former Director Comey here.
Yeah.
I don't put a lot of stock in this. I think it's just going to be more pomp and circumstance for the mainstream media to eat up. The anti-Trump forces are going to try to make him look bad, and that's really what, at the end of the day, what it's all about here. They're going to do anything they can to try to inhibit and delegitimize his victory. But it's funny, if you look at the map and you look at how many state legislatures and governorships are Republican, it makes perfect sense that they would win the national election. I mean, look at how many. I think there's over 3 Republican governors and state legislatures in the country right now. So if you look at that based on a pure number, you would figure that the Republican nominee for president would win a national election, and that's just exactly what happened. I don't know where the delusion, the Trump derangement syndrome, comes from.
Well, I think you can take your pick, but everything for me comes back to sour grapes on behalf of the Democrats because they lost, because they chose a candidate that we knew was a 40-year career criminal posing as a politician, someone that had covered up for her husband's sexual misdemeanors and rapes for the last 40 years, stole from us, lied to us, cheated the Haitian orphans. But enough about Hillary. I want to come to you, Andrea. We alluded a little bit to this earlier on in the show, but let's face it, Comey should have been fired, a long time ago.
Well, yeah, I mean, he should have been fired for his intelligence failures, from the Tsarnaev brothers to Pulse nightclub to San Bernardino, Fort Hood, and beyond.
Right.
Not even to mention Fast and Furious, Benghazi, IRS scandal. There's been absolutely over the Justice Department being politicized, being a tool Ferguson and Trayvon Martin and beyond. And that's what was going. And Comey has been hovering over the drain to try to keep it from being the swamp from being drained. That's what he's tried to do. In regards to this memo, is the ink even dried on that thing yet? It's absurd that he would tell. And this is the guy who didn't he come out last week and say he tried to hide from Donald Trump by hiding in the curtains? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's.
And this dude, to me, he is literally mentally unstable that he would even tell anybody that. This is a man so incompetent that he went before Congress and told people that he got nauseous. Saturday Night Live, if this involved Republicans, or if that had been a Republican dude, Saturday Night Live, and Hillary had fired him, Saturday Night Live would be doing a skit called Comey the Nauseous Clown playing hide and seek in the White House.
Of course.
Instead, the hero, because he's actively, vindictively, like Julio said, trying to take down Trump. What concerns me is that we have a Republican Party that's letting him go talk to Mueller first before testifying. Why?
Yeah. Yeah, it's great to see this, this kind of base of political support. Because, I know a lot of people didn't like the fact that, Donald Trump was the candidate. And I've stated several times, I certainly wasn't to begin with. But as soon as he was the candidate, I got behind him 200%. But, when you have Republicans out there that will gleefully tell you that they voted for Hillary over Donald Trump, they voted for a Democrat over the Republican candidate, that leads me to believe that they shouldn't be Republicans at all. Because if you're a Republican and you're voting for Democrats, what the hell is the point?
Exactly. Not only that, they voted for a criminal. They voted for somebody who's immoral. They voted for somebody who defended the rapist of a 12-year-old little girl.
Yeah.
They voted for somebody who was involved in the Whitewater scheme, which built a lot of old people out of money. And listen, they took money in the 1990s to pardon criminals, drug lords.
Yeah.
In our country, they took $200,000 for to basically, just like they were selling diplomacy through the Clinton Foundation when she was the Secretary of State, they were selling anything they could. They were stealing the silverware in the White House.
Yeah.
I mean, how dirty are these people?
But the thing that concerns me most about this is that they've walked away from all of it. She actually feels like she's untouchable. And I just wonder what she's going to get away with next. I mean, every time she does something, in my brain, it's like, surely they've got to prosecute her now. Surely she's got to. I mean, she should be in jail for 10 years just for the email stuff. When Christian Saucier, Navy vet, sits in jail for 6 selfies on a cell phone, and that bitch, excuse my French, walks, haunts Chappaqua after all she did 33,000 cases of mishandling classified information, and this poor guy rots in jail. Are we still living in America? That's what I want to know. I really do.
Yeah, I don't think so anymore, man. I do believe that there is, and then the more that I hear about it, and the more things that I read and see, there is a deep state. I do believe it, and that deep state encompasses both parties, and it basically is the progressives that want to perpetuate big government, and Donald Trump was a threat to that, and I think that's why you saw a lot of Republicans stand against Donald Trump, against their own nominee.
Yeah.
Knowing everything that we know about Hillary Clinton, they still wanted Donald Trump to lose, which is ridiculous.
Absolutely. I want to make one very quick point because we're out of time. But I want you out there to remember this. When these people come up for re-election, those that have not supported Donald Trump, I want to encourage you not to vote them back into office. Because it's time we had fresh blood in the Republican Party. It's time we got rid of these rhinos and actually got back to what Republicanism really is.
We need another Tea Party uprising. We need primary candidates.
We do.
Attack the leadership. Because listen, you can get a seat here, a seat there. It doesn't really make a difference. You got to target Paul Ryan. You got to target McCarthy. And on down the party leadership until you get down to a good conservative like a Trent Franks or somebody like that would be next in line to be House Speaker.
Absolutely. Well, we are out of time. Thanks to our guest, Julio Rivera. Tell people where they can find you, Julio.
ReactionaryTimes.com. You can read my column at Newsmax, The Austere Constructionist, also in Right Wing News and Politics as well. I love you guys. Thank you for having me again. Nice to talk to you as always.
Absolutely. Back at you, Julio. Take care. Thanks a lot. Have a great week. Bye.
Bye-bye.
That was Julio Rivera blowing us a kiss right there. Make sure you check him out at Reactionary Times. Thanks to my wonderful co-host, the fabulous Andrea Kaye, host of the Andrea Kaye Show. Tell people where they can find you and, more importantly, when they can listen to your show.
Well, coming up in a few minutes, I'm actually going to be on tonight's Tipping Point on One American News. Hint, wink, wink. We recorded that earlier today, but watch me chat
live
about Chester and political correctness. My show Tuesdays on AM 1170, The Answer, and Wednesdays, I am here with Dan and Ann.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Andrea. You have a great week, and I look forward to speaking to you very soon.
Bye, honey.
Thanks a lot. Take care. Lots of love. That was the fabulous Andrea Kaye. Make sure you check her out at www.andreakayshow.com. Please share the video now. It is free to do so. Press that share button now and tell Facebook that you don't want any more censorship. Please press that button now. We need to get this show out there. We need to get the truth out there. And you can help with that by pressing the share button now. And obviously I'm speaking in Chinese, because nobody's pressing the share button. If you want to support the show, you can buy my book, which is called The Boy from Beyond the Ice House. You can buy my album, which is called, what the hell is it called? It's called The Platinum Prequel. I just shared the links in the main feed. Thanks to everybody in the main feed. Apologies for the problems earlier. We obviously got under the skin of Facebook, which is why they stopped the show. I look forward to sharing with you tomorrow night, where my guest will be the newly married Mr. Swoop, and my co-host Stephen, and our guest will be David Weissman. Have a great night, stay safe, and please click the share button before you go. Bye-bye.
Love, it has been good to me this time around. Things were bound to change when it was found. Sugar never tasted sweeter on my lips. My heart is now intact, and I can find